This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Joining us today is David Price, the CEO of Rockfire Resources. Hi David, good to be talking to you again. How are you?
I'm well, Mark. How are you?
Yes, not doing so bad. Thank you, David. So last time we spoke, I remember we were talking about the drilling at Copperhead, and you were surprised with how much visible copper you were seeing. And you've announced today that you've delivered on your Maiden JORC resource of 120,000 tonnes of copper equivalent. So first of all, can I just ask you for your feeling on this announcement and all the work leading up to it?
Sure. No, that's great. Well, thanks, Mark. The resource is really pleasing for us. We've had over 3,500 copper-bearing veins that we've intersected in the drilling, and that's an enormous number of veins with mineralisation, visible mineralisation. Having drilled 5 holes, the whole purpose of the program was to verify the drilling from 1972, and it certainly achieved that goal. The average grade in 1972 was around 0.16% copper, and we've ended up with a similar average grade. And look, the grade doesn't set the world on fire, and we're fully conscious of that. However, what you do is that if you have a lower grade deposit, you can very often offset that with an enormous tonnage. So you're looking at economies of scale there. And we've already hit 64 million tonnes of this in a JORC resource. So this is a very big project. It still remains open to the west, north, east, and at depth. So look, there's a lot of work still to do to build this. And we certainly hit some higher grades. We're hitting up to 2% copper in some of the drilling, but it's clearly not the average grade. Now, it appears as though just from the geology where we're getting these quartz, sericite, pyrite, and chalcopyrite veins, we seem to be sitting above the main porphyry system. We haven't hit the feeder system yet. What we're seeing is that the heat is being driven from underneath. It's rising with the heat, and the gases are fracturing all of the above-lying rocks, and all of this copper is coming in through these veins. So whatever's feeding this is actually coming from deeper beneath us. So that bodes well. And of course, very often, as you know, these porphyry systems can be laterally diffuse as well. So we have to look at this to the west, north, and east. And further to the north, we actually have a regional gravity low. Whether that's the feeder or not, I don't know, and nobody knows yet. So there's still a lot to learn. It's early days for this project, but having 5 holes drilled over 500 metres depth and still hitting copper in every single hole, it's a great first program for us. And the market hasn't quite appreciated that. I think the market probably enjoyed the fact that we've got the copper there. We've got 120,000 tonnes of copper equivalent. That's a great start for us. And now the company's in a position that it has JORC gold resources, JORC silver resources at plateau, and now we have JORC copper resources. So we're very happy with that. It builds our value in our company. And we've got a long way to go because this is a big system, and we are looking forward to exploring it further. Okay.
Well, thank you for that. The RNS talks about copper equivalent. So I just wondered if you can explain what that means. Is that other credits as well that come into the mix?
That's correct. So Copperhead, we're also seeing molybdenum in the veins. So the copper equivalent includes copper, molybdenum, and silver. There's some silver in the system. And when you're looking at total tonnage, you're actually looking at metal content. You actually have to put it into the context of the principal metal being copper. And so what we do is convert the molybdenum that we encounter in the drilling and the silver into copper equivalent value. So then we move that into the metal content. We end up with 120,000 tonnes of copper equivalent. So that's how that's calculated. And that's quite common. Many companies and certainly many deposits have got other elements in there, and they're credits to the main copper component. And we're fortunate to have the molybdenum and the silver in there as well. So it's a good system. It's a big system. And it seems that at the very top of these porphyry systems, you have very often copper gold. As you get deeper into the systems, you end up with the copper moly. And we're sitting at the upper part of this copper moly system because there's no gold at the Copperhead project. That's been well known from the 1972 drilling. So this is very much a copper moly system. And it looks as though as we go deeper, we'll be maintaining that copper moly ratio. And then, of course, as we look laterally, we'll be looking at expanding the footprint of the mineralisation.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier about the grades, perhaps not being super high grades, but of course the economies of scale perhaps come into this with the sheer resource, the mountain that's there. You've mentioned in the RNS that it could demonstrate the potential for a low-cost bulk tonnage open cut mining scenario. And yes, you said the whole mineral resource remains open to the north, east, west, and at depth. So plenty of room, it seems, for expansion. At what point does it look like a viable mining operation?
A long way from here. Let me make that very clear. This is the early stage. These are very, very large systems. What we're doing is that we've drilled the first 5 drill holes. That's not many drill holes into these systems. Typically, they will take a lot of drilling, and that's something that we're conscious of. And look, I think that we will build this to the point that very often these systems outgrow the company. They get so large that the company can't fund it adequately. They can't provide the human resources adequately to be able to advance these projects. So that's something that we're conscious of. Big companies need big projects, and this is something that we have firmly in mind. Big companies need projects that they can mine for 20 or 30 years and more. So the bigger companies love big projects. This is clearly a very big project, and what we'll be doing is advancing this as Rockfire as far as we can, and my feeling is that we'll probably find that the deposit outgrows us, and that's something that is down the track. I couldn't put a time frame on that, of course, so that's something that we hope that will happen in time, that the deposit will outgrow us, and that's a great outcome.
Okay, but for an early stage project for Rockfire, what you're seeing is very positive?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's very rare to be able to find so many copper-bearing veins and to drill 5 holes and have copper throughout their lengths. And that's a great first program for us. So, the market reacted fairly positively today. I think people appreciate the fact that we're building real value in the company. And as we add more JORC resources to the company portfolio, it increases the value of Rockfire. So what we are doing is building value in Rockfire based on real JORC resources. And this is important because we're there to explore. We're exploring effectively. We're finding gold, silver, and copper. And every time we add resources, we're building material value in the company. So that's something, it is the strategy. We don't put out a lot of RNSs. We don't entertain a huge amount of chats on the chat sites, but the main thing is that we are ongoing with our exploration. During the summer, we've been doing expansion soil sampling at Plateau, for example, and we haven't put out an RNS about that because there's a lot of work that goes on in the background. We've been working diligently on the copper resource, which we came out with today, and that is just groundwork that gets done. And we just continue to achieve these resources. We'll continue to build the resources in Rockfire, and that's where shareholders will end up with great value in this company.
Okay. I was going to ask you about how you value. I guess it's far too early to be talking about NPVs at this stage in the game, but maybe you can tell me what comes next. What are the plans for Rockfire? Is it more drilling?
Yes is the answer. So, look, we're keen to get into Copper Dome. We got thwarted a bit by the weather last year. We focused on Copperhead and we drilled the holes at Copperhead. The results, unfortunately, were quite slow from the laboratory. I called the laboratory at one point to see if they could speed up our samples coming through the lab, and they told me that there were, at the time, 80,000 samples ahead of ours. So we were just in the queue, and there's very little companies can do about that. The The laboratories in Australia are snowed under at this point in time and continue to be. So, look, we got thwarted by the Copper Dome. We look forward to drilling that this year. We'd like to do some more expansion drilling at Copperhead. And we will continue our drilling, particularly near surface gold resources at Plateau. Recently, we put out an RNS about our zinc project in Greece, and we'll look to putting out a Maiden JORC resource at that zinc project as well. So that's the aim. We'll end up with additional drilling at the three projects, a Maiden JORC resource at the Mollai zinc deposit. So it'll keep us very busy for the year.
Okay, so you'll be keeping very busy. Any further updates from Plateau or indeed the zinc project? I know that's where you are now, so to be boots on the ground, what you're seeing looking positive?
Look, very much so. As you mentioned, I'm in Greece at the moment. One of the objectives, the very early objectives that we wanted to achieve was to try and locate the historical diamond drill core from 1988. And we've successfully found that core. It's actually in covered storage in Athens by the Geological Survey. And we accessed that. And actually over the last few days, we've been resampling a lot of the intervals in that old drill core. And that was one of the aims that we actually put out in our RNS a week ago. So we've succeeded in accessing that core. We've now succeeded in sampling that core. So what that will mean is that we should be able to, with a bit of luck, fast-track a Maiden JORC resource. That's our aim, is to fast-track that. So that will assist that process. And we put out a LinkedIn post today, and you'll be able to have a look at the Rockfire LinkedIn site, because there's a beautiful photograph of some of the core there. It's 36% zinc. It's extraordinary grade. So look, it's a great deposit, super high grade. And we're fortunate that we have been able to access the old core, and that means that we can verify that drilling from 1988. So that's a great first step for us.
Okay, so a season of building JORC resources all round then, David, is that right?
Absolutely. No, that's what we do. We're good at exploring, and we'll continue to explore, and we'll continue to add value by adding resources. That's what we should be doing.
Perfect. Well, David Price, the CEO of Rockfire Resources, thank you very much for that update.
Nice to talk with you again, Mark. Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.